What is up, everybody? Welcome on into the Monday edition of Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Andrew Cooper, alongside me, Iggy Gilbert. And as you know, on Mondays, we're breaking down all the behind-the-scenes stuff, all the stuff you might have missed, routes run, not just things like targets and receptions, but pass block snaps, who got third downs, who got all that stuff. But before we get to that, Iggy, got to ask you about some surface level stuff. What do you think about my New England Patriots being the number one team in the league? I'm rocking the Ben Coates jersey in honor, but what do you think? Frauds or are they for real? You can be honest with me. You can be honest.
They can't be fraudulent. You don't get to 10 wins. So there's something there. The AFC East is in shambles again. It's like we're back to like the same routine. But they win close games. Credit the coaching staff, dude. They prepare them for those moments. Let me flip it back on you. I do like that jersey. Those mid-90s Patriots jerseys were nice. Ben Coates, great tight end for those that do not know. Who makes it further, Chicago Bears or the New England Patriots?
I mean, that's a good question. That's a good question. They're kind of in a similar realm. I'll tell you this. If the injuries this week for the Patriots end up being serious, they're in huge trouble. You cannot lose your left tackle. Will Campbell went down with what they're saying is an MCL sprain. Also, Jared Wilson, another offensive lineman, went out. So I don't know, man. At this very moment, I might have to side with the Bears. Not to mention there's also some kind of monsters lurking in the AFC that could really be problematic. I mean, depending on how things shake out, if the Patriots end up with the 2 seed, they could be going against the Kansas City Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs. You know what I mean? So, if that's the case, it could get really ugly. And yeah, Colts fans, I think you guys are going to be all right too. I mean, could have easily won that game. Let me ask you something, Iggy, before we get in.
Okay.
From a fan standpoint, I actually found myself unsure of who to root for in that game because technically, speaking, I should be rooting against the Colts, right? Because you want getting that bye week is so crucial. And you want all the other top teams to falter so that you get that bye week locked up and you can maybe even take the week off before, like the Chiefs have done many times. But at the same time, I don't want the Chiefs in the playoffs. So I didn't who would you have rooted for in that situation? If you were a Patriots fan, would you have wanted the Colts or the Chiefs to win that?
Just as an NFL fan watching the game, I wanted the Colts to win. As a Patriots fan, you just have to have the mentality. It doesn't matter. Like now the number one seed's yours. You got the better scenario that came out of that. You can controlled what you could control against the Cincinnati Bengals. Tough game. You got to be happy. You got the number one seed. How can you not be happy about that?
I guess that's right. Like if you're a true champion, you don't want the easy road. You want to be of the mindset of we're gonna win no matter what. We do want the bye week, right? We want to earn the bye week because that's what the best team gets. And if we've got to face the Chiefs down the road, we got to face the Chiefs down the road. So, all right, I'm with you. Let's go. So, folks, what we're going to do today, we're going to go through game by game and try and hit you with just the important stuff, especially the underlying stuff, right? Like we want to make sure for fantasy football, especially, we differentiate between a guy that went out and got 8 targets, but only played 50% of the snaps. His team threw 75 times, which is completely out of normal, versus somebody who went out and got 8 targets, but they played 95% of the snaps and it's going to be sustainable. So that's kind of what we're doing is we're trying to make a little more sense of the box score and what's going on there. So why don't we jump in the first game here? Thank you guys for joining the chat, whoever's hanging out. First game, Jets at Ravens. Iggy, my boy, what did you see?
Yeah, Tyrod wasn't that bad, man. Shout out to the old Super Bowl champion himself. Tyrod Taylor was QB 17 and 6 per passing touchdown. That's not bad. It's all the bye weeks, super flex leagues. You probably could have played somebody worse. In fact, I know you could have. We'll talk about them later. But the backfield situation was finally all Breece Hall, man. He had 20 touches, 119 yards, 4 receptions. Davis had 4 touches for 7 yards. 4 rushes, 7 yards. I don't know if it'll continue that way. I don't know if they were just we're going to lean on Hall with Taylor here. I mean, I just don't know what to think of Aaron Glenn and what's going to go on over there. But Taylor to Mechie, dude, you're going to see this a lot this week, and you're going to see it with backup quarterbacks. They do well with their, the 3rd and 4th string wide receivers who they're getting reps with. And Mechie came on board, and he probably had some more reps with Tyrod, and he went for 6 for 65 with 1 TD. So I think if Tyrod continues to be the quarterback, Mitchie's available, and I believe something like 20% of the leagues last time I looked at on Sleeper. Go take a look at him. That means he's available in a league where somebody's going to the playoffs. So if he's out there, put some fab on him. I think it'll be worth it. And then Mason Taylor, man, 81.8% of pass plays he was out there. So there's a 27 pass routes to 5 pass blocking. He had a decent line with Tyrod Taylor. I think the tight end position. It's just so mediocre. The mediocre is so big. You probably don't panic or reset if you're going into the playoffs with Mason Taylor. 81.8% of the pass plays. That's pretty great for a tight end.
Yeah, they let John Mechie and Adonai Mitchell really play the full game, which was nice to see. Adonai Mitchell once again having a hard time actually catching the ball. But yeah, I'm with you on Mechie grabbing him, and Taylor probably a spot start if you need him. Definitely not moving him up into the top 12, but hey, 81%, not bad.
Yeah, exactly. Lamar, quarterback 21. Huh? How about that? Not bad at all. Outproduced by Tyrod Taylor, Mason Rudolph, Shadir Sanders. We're gonna go over some names that Lamar was outproduced by. And whatever, they're winning. I'm sure they don't care. I'm sure he could care less. He's got all the personal accolades. Cold weather. We talked about this last week. Guess what? That means better defense, and that means more running. I just had a 33-point total. It didn't, I don't know what the line was, but I bet that was about it or under. But you're going to see a lot more from Henry. 35 snaps, 21 carries, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns near the goal line. He had 2 receptions actually for 24 yards. Justice Hill, like we talked about, just have to wait and see what's going on. Mitchell, he comes in, but he's kind of like one little burst, and that's always good for. He hasn't produced much more out of that, particularly for fantasy football. Flowers, 6 touches, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 58 yards. He had 2 rushes for 11 yards as well. So not a great line as a Flowers owner. A little disappointed, but he's not throwing touchdowns. He's just doing what he's got to do to win games. Andrews, 42 snaps, 83.3% of the routes. Likely 36 snaps, 68.4% of the routes. Likely had a little better number. Andrews, not much this week, but I'm still not, just panicking either and dropping him.
Yeah, you can't drop him, but he's a tough start. This should have been a good matchup for him. So probably not going to be using a ton of Andrews because that's the thing is when it's a bad matchup, you can be like, okay, we played the Bills, we played the Texans, we played the Falcons, whoever. But he should have done a little more today. But you're right. Whenever it's a Derrick Henry game, they just lean on him, and in the cold weather, that's worked pretty well for them. So I'm not worried about the Ravens. They're going to have some tougher matchups coming up here where they're going to have to throw a little more, and we'll get those guys back in there. Patriots, Bengals, next game here. I assigned myself this game because I wanted to talk about it. Now, again, worth noting the MCL issue for Will Campbell could be an IR candidate. Jared Wilson also had an ankle issue. That could change the course of their season. So hopefully they're going to rest him up. They could struggle for the next few weeks. They get some tough matchups with the Bills, Ravens on deck here after the bye week. So we'll see on Will Campbell, but at least it's not season ending. Anytime you see a guy on the cart with a towel over his head, it's not a cramp, right? So at least he's not done for the year, hypothetically. So we'll have to see. In terms of the usage, Travion Henderson started and got the bulk of the work, just like people wanted to see. Ramondre Stevenson did play some obvious pass downs. I think they still believe in the pass blocking ability of Ramondre. So I think that's kind of where he's going to fit in for the time being. But for now, it's Henderson over Ramondre moving forward. It seems like that. We'll see if it's related to the injury or not, but we have to play it the way that they're doing it. So we're going to go that way with Hendo. And the good thing about Henderson is that even though Ramondre took some obvious pass downs, he's such a good pass catcher that they kind of just found ways to get him the ball in the pass game as well. So he's in a good spot moving forward. For wide receivers, what they did with Kayshon Boutte coming back is he and Mac Hollins actually played the full game as the outside wide receivers. Stephon Diggs came in, as he's been doing for a good chunk of the year, and played like a kind of limited role. Like, I know he's dealt with a chest issue and a few other things. So he comes in and plays like his limited snap share, but they try and get him the ball when he does come in. So Diggs is still the best option. If you want the dart throws, it's going to be Hollins or Boutte moving forward. Those guys I think that's kind of the setup they like. And then Demario Douglas and Kyle Williams, they hardly even played at all. So don't really worry about those guys. Hunter Henry, as he's been a lot of the year, up and down. When he has good matchups, it's up. The Bengals are one of the worst teams in the league versus the tight end. So Hunter Henry had a big day, as expected. Kept my hopes alive in the Scott Fish Bowl, where he scored like 46 points or whatever it was over there. without Justin Herbert. Anything else on the Patriots before we go on the next one?
Yeah, played Hollins. He didn't produce. Like I said, it's a total
Yeah.
like flex, injury kind of play. I wouldn't rely on it for a high floor. But Henry, dude, yeah, got him in when I could. Great.
Absolutely, yeah. So we had him ranked tight end 6 this week. He's not going to be ranked tight end 6 every week. I'll tell you that. It's really just whatever tight end plays the Bengals moves up like 3 or 4 spots in the rankings from where they normally are because they've been that bad. I mean, Henry's touchdown this week, that makes 13 touchdowns against the Bengals by tight ends on the season.
That's insane.
Right. There's only been 12 weeks. They've only played 11 games. So, yeah. Bengals side, no Jamar Chase because he spit on Jalen Ramsey. T. Higgins left the game towards the end with a concussion. So we're going to have to monitor that. If T. Higgins is out next week, Andre Iosivas could potentially be back on the menu. They run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. So it was Andre Iosivas, Mitch Tinsley, and T. Higgins. Tinsley scored the touchdown. So shout out to Howard, who was throwing his name around on the radio show this week, being like, hey, if you want a really gross, deep dart throw, Mitch Tinsley's probably going to play a lot more snaps. And then Charlie Jones is wide receiver 4, but we're not close to being that far down the depth chart here. For tight ends, I saw people starting Noah Fant, and I was like, don't do that. The week before last, it was 17 routes for Fant, as we talked about on this show. 17 routes for Fant, 17 for Hudson, and then 16 for Drew Sample. So it split down the right. I mean, it split in third out of 41. You couldn't trust that. This week, Gesicki ran 26. Hudson ran 13, Sample ran 10, Fant ran 7. So if you want a gross dart throw it at Gesicki. I'm not super duper interested in doing that because you never know. Some of these weeks, just like the Steelers, there were weeks before Gesicki got hurt where it was a positive game script. The team was winning, and you know what happened? Noah Fant played more snaps than Gesicki. So it's really tough to trust. Anything else on the Bengals that comes to mind here? I mean,
let me put it to you this way: Fant or Turpin?
I mean, in your league where you get a ton of points for return yards, I'd probably just go Turpin, dude.
It's crazy, right? Crazy.
Yeah. Question here in the chat from our guy DP151. I mean, I don't know what's going on with YouTube where it's showing the user handles instead of the usernames. So it's really throwing me off, dude, because usually I recognize people's names and now I don't know who the heck is who. But trade question: Adams, Etienne, and Hunt for Achane and Jefferson. RBs are Saquon, Etienne, Warren. Wide receivers are C, London, Adams, Egbuka. So he's trading away Adams here.
No, dude, I'm not trading away Adams for Jefferson. And Achane's great in the PPR format, but Etienne's proved to be more than capable this last week. So I'm just not. The Vikings are probably tanking to go get somebody higher or get better draft picks, in my opinion. We'll talk about them later, but there's just no offensive. Who are you starting there? Are you starting Jefferson, who did minimal? He didn't even get 9 points.
He's not even starting Jefferson, I don't think. I think he would be starting Lamb, London, and Egbuka. I think in that case you're consolidating a little bit, but you're making your lineup a little bit worse, in my opinion. And I'll tell you, when we get to the section on ETN and Hunt, and we talk about their usage, it might change your mind on what the value of those guys are. You definitely want to have some depth here. It only takes one bad injury to kind of derail your team unless you have a bunch of wide receivers. So let's jump in and you do the Steelers and Bears. I know you're bullish on these Bears.
Yeah, man. AFC North versus NFC North. Good teams, used to playing outside. It's everything I expected it to be. Rudolph was decent. Like I talked about, better than Lamar. Spot start, our QB 20. We need to just see if Rodgers is coming back. Or they're going to try to finish 9-8. That's Mike Tomlin's go-to every year. So we're going to see if that happens, but we'll keep that going. Gainwell, we called it on the show last week. I said, hey, Rudolph is coming in. Gainwell's probably going to have a good game next week. I started him as somebody that I'm handcuffing a lot. I had a lot of Warren and Gainwell both in this past weekend. It was highly successful. He was a leader in receptions. He was a leader in yards. He had 10 for 92. And then Warren was 18, 68, and 1 on touchdown ground. So backfield production, you usually expect that when you got 2 good backs and a backup quarterback in. But he still kept DK Metcalf somewhat relevant with PPR receptions, 5 for 22, so it wasn't a total dud. And then tight ends combined, you know how we like to play this game on Arthur Smith and his tight ends. Which one is it going to be? This week they went 8 for 66 and 1 TD. If that was one tight end, man, that'd be great. Like that would be outstanding. Problem is that's 3 tight ends, and the winner this week was Pat Fryermuth. So you hear Coop talk about it quite often. The tight end will over there with Arthur Smith. Just stay away from it, man.
Brutal, dude.
Anything on the Steelers before the Bears?
No, that's it. Yeah, I mean, just again with the tight ends, it's every week they kind of switch up what they're doing, and I think it's by design. Arthur Smith was a former tight end coach that became a coordinator, and that's been always been part of his game to have this rotation to try and keep you off guard. So I'm just staying like unless 2 of those tight ends get hurt, I'm staying away.
Yeah, man. It's interesting. Steelers monitor Rodgers going forward. We'll have to see with Rudolph. Caleb Williams and Coach Johnson, Ben Johnson, that equals good for fantasy, man. Yep. We're getting into week 12, okay? So rookies are no longer rookies, and new game plans are no longer new game plans, and new philosophies are no longer new philosophies. You've had a long time. You've had over 2.5 months to really embed them into NFL action. So they're there. All right. And Caleb went 19 for 239, 3 touchdowns, and he had 4 rushes for 21 yards. Excellent day from him once again. Remember, the Steelers are not a great defense. You know, he keeps finding ways to win. He keeps doing what he needs to do. Is he the best USC quarterback to come into the NFL? We'll have that conversation here in a little bit. When we look at the running back room, Kyle Monangai, man, this was the game he kind of broke away from DeAndre Swift. I started using it. Ben Johnson, you see him starting to use his rookies, implement his game philosophy, get these people that he specifically targeted for these roles. And Monangai had 35 snaps, 12 rushes, 48 yards, 1 touchdown. He outsnapped and outproduced Swift, who had 29 snaps, 8 rushes, 15 yards, and he had 1 reception for 15 yards as well. So pretty terrible, less than 2 yards per carry average right there for Swift. As somebody that had Swift in a lot, I felt that pain, and I think this might be a trend going forward. I think, like I talked about, Coach Johnson's implementing the players that he likes and the philosophy he wants to implement, so you could see this more going forward. DJ Moore finally had a breakout game. The guy I told everybody to stay away from this year. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. So if you put him in the lineup this week, you were rewarded. Adunze still out-targeted him. 9 targets, 3 receptions, 53 yards. So don't panic just because he only had 8 points, or, if you're a half-point PPR, he only had 7 points. Don't panic. He's still not touchdown dependent. Believe it or not, Steelers were still able to get to Caleb Williams. You wouldn't think by looking at that line, but they were pressuring him quite a bit that game. So don't panic on Adunze. And then once again, going back to the rookies, Loveland, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 49 yards. Burden, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 46 yards. He's starting to implement all these guys into his offense. They're starting to understand it. They've seen enough game film. They're getting better. They're rookies. They're pretty much vets now. They're past what they would have played in college. So let's give them credit, and that's, like I said, that's been Johnson's philosophy, and it's taken root.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like the Bears, the problem you run into with them is that they have so many good weapons. They spread it around a little bit, but when they throw a ton like this, it works fine. In the games where they don't throw as much, could be a little tough, but you still definitely want to roster and stash all these guys and use them where you got it. That's where I live with all those players. DB's asking, what if it was Adams, Etienne, and Hunt for Achane and Olave? To which the problem here is that London, we don't know when he's going to be back. So, like, you're downgrading from Adams. It's like I don't know if swapping Adams for Achane really helps your team all that much, because I mean you have good running backs as is. Like Etienne's been great. I think if anything, you might be helping the team you're playing a little too much with this trade. I think your team is pretty well balanced right now with the running backs and wide receivers you do have, because you got a wide receiver hurt, and if a running back gets hurt, you still got a bunch of good ones. I feel like doing this trade is going to make your team just a little too thin. That's why I'm not a huge fan of it.
And Stafford's going for an MVP, and Adams is his go-to guy for the stat that matters, touchdowns. So I don't think like Adams' touchdowns are going anywhere.
It's not so much about the player you're getting back at wide receiver. It's that I just like the balance of your team better as is. I don't think Achane, to be honest, really is that. He's not so much better than Etienne right now that you got to do that. And what's up, Ann? Missed a couple games, but that's all right. You can always watch it again on the way back. We're trying to cruise through these. We've only gotten through 3, so we're going to hit up a little rapid fire here. to get it popping. I'm jumping to the next one here. We got the Giants and Lions. Anyone that watched this game, this was a fun one. I mean, the Giants just came out and were like, you know what? Let's have some fun here. They ran a bunch of trick plays. They had the flea flicker, or it was more of a double pass to Wan'Dale Robinson for like a absolute 50-yard bomb in the air. They had Jameis Winston catching a contested catch thrown by Gunnar Olszewski, where he shook the guy off and scored the touchdown. So a lot of fun there. For fantasy, though, moving forward, Wan'Dale Robinson, the clear wide receiver, 39 routes, 13 targets and a carry. He's locked in. After that, Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton each ran 29 routes. So out of a possible, Wan'Dale ran 36. Out of a possible 39, Slayton ran 29. Hodgins ran 29. Slayton ran 25. That's not really enough for me to trust these guys. I would go Slayton still because maybe he's getting ramped up off the injury if you need a deep dart throw. But it really is just Wan'Dale for me from the wide receivers. They ran heavy 2 tight end sets. That's why the wide receivers were able to both play big snap shares. Theo Johnson played 64 snaps. Daniel Bellinger played 51. So, it's like huge. And Bellinger didn't really run a lot of routes. He was just helping blocking. But just a ton of extra snaps for the tight ends hurts the wide receivers. So, for me, Wan'Dale's on the table. And Theo Johnson, I mean, especially when Dart gets back, because Dart and him have a good relationship, he's going to be on the streaming radar still for us. So Theo Johnson is a guy that needs to be rostered. Tyrone Tracy starts, as always, gets the bulk of the work, and Devin Singletary gets the obvious short yardage, which includes goal line. So it's got the split is kind of like the annoying one in Seattle with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, where Tracy is Kenneth Walker. He starts. He's more explosive. He's better in the pass game. And then when they get to a short yardage play, they switch the back. And, with 3rd and 1 at the middle of the field, you don't care about that. But when it's 2nd and goal and they switch the back to Singletary or they switch the back to Zach Charbonnet, it's very frustrating. So you just got to keep that in mind. In full PPR, Tracy's still a fine start. Devin Singletary is like a spot start trying to chase the touchdown, but it's also the Giants. So I don't know how many touchdowns there will be. Anything else on the Giants before we jump the lines?
Yeah, Jameis Winston QB1 right now. So
super mega star, dude. Yeah, every week flea flicker, and why not just keep running flea flickers and throw it to Winston? He should just play tight end, dude. That was, pretty nice play by him coming back to get the ball. He should teach Kyle Pitts how to do that. Next team here, Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs is a super duper mega star, and at this stage, David Montgomery, like when I do the RB questionnaire and break down like what everyone's role is, he doesn't have a defined role anymore. Like he's not the starter like he used to be. He's not the goal line back. He's not, a short yard specialist. He's basically a guy that comes in to spell Gibbs and get a carry every once in a while and play garbage time. Like there's not a huge difference between David Montgomery and what Tyler Algier is right now for you. So David Montgomery, definitely not a must-start guy by any means. Jameson Williams, we got to talk about it because Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy you always start no matter what. Jameson Williams had 3 straight good games. We thought we could depend on him, and then classic Jameson Williams fashion scores 0 points, right? It's just every time, man. So now you look at it, and it was like, okay, he had a 0-point game, and then he had 3 great games. So we thought we could depend on him, but now he has another 0-point game. Now he has 2 0-point games out of the last 5, which to me, he is like a quintessential best ball superstar. The thing is the highs are so high. Is it worth it just to deal with the bad weeks? Like he has a week with 1 catch for 9 yards, 2 is 0. Like, is it worth it? Are you the kind of player that says worth it?
No, man, this goes against my whole philosophy in fantasy. You need to get the floor players to get you to the playoffs, and then you need to make sure you have the boom bust players because everybody's going to have like a boom roster for the playoffs. But this is also for the same philosophy, the same reason why I'm not a proponent of total points being the tiebreaker. Because just because you had 1 week where, everybody went off and had 2 or 3 touchdowns and 70, 80-yard bomb catches, and you should be rewarded for that? No, you should be rewarded for consistency and other metrics besides just one big game. Because if you're in best ball, sure, but when you're managing, it is the absolute worst, feeling.
It is tough, man. That's the thing, is you need 3 consistent games to win your fantasy football playoffs. If you get let down 1 week, it could be the end of your year. So, the guys like that, he's just going to they'll always be on the fringe of the spot starts for me. Guys like Jordan Addison and Xavier Worthy and Jameson Williams, where it's like, if I got nothing better, I might as well just go for ceiling. But always consistency over guys like that. Just to wrap up the Lions, Brock Wright, DFS dart throw only. At least he got a decent number of snaps, a couple targets, but if he's not going to do it against the Giants, who knows when he will. And then it's worth mentioning that Khalif Raymond left with an injury, so maybe when Isaac Tesla gets back, he'll get a little more work. But really, with this team, we're starting Gibbs, we're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Monty or JMO are just kind of on that fringe there where we're throwing them in if we need to. Shout out to Rob Stone in the chat. The song itself is not incredible, but the intro is sick. There's like a whistle intro and it goes, Rob Stone, 2 damn phones, Babylon can't touch the throne. So shout out to our guy Rob Stone here. Ethan needs a prayer that Rico Dowdle can stay below 20.5 PPR points. What would you say? What is the percentage that Dowdle, the percentage odds that Dowdle gets over 20.5 tonight? If you had to throw a number on it,
I'm gonna say I'm taking the under. I'm taking that under. That's probably a great set line. I'm taking the under because I expect the San Francisco 49ers to jump ahead early and force Young to pass the ball more.
60% chance that 60-40, you think?
55-45. I think that's a good line.
55-45. All right. So hey, you know what? That's the fun thing about fantasy football when it is a true toss up like this. Because when he needs 40 points or he needs 2, then that watching those games is like, okay, whatever. But when it's a true sweat, that's fun. All right, let's jump in the next one here.
And a touchdown pretty much makes that a sweat of the whole game. Like one touchdown, you're sweating.
Yeah, you're done. Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Your Packers, Iggy, they continue to win games. Gritty team here. What are your thoughts on the game?
They got a great postseason defense, man. It's Rams playing a dome. Seattle plays outside. There going to be some outside games for the Packers, so it's going to be interesting to watch. But let's take a look at the Vikings first. Look, we talked about there are fringe flex players. I mean, that's being nice. McCarthy went 12 for 87, 2 INTs, and 5 sacks. That's terrible. Yeah. That's beyond terrible. And then, Coop talked about it last week. I'm going to give it a name this week. We're calling it the land of 10,000 lakes. We're calling this the lake effect. And, the lakes I grew up on, they're hot and they create heat mirages off the lake. And that's kind of what's going on here. Aaron Jones, 29 backfield touches. He went 9 rushes, 41 yards, 3 receptions, 3 receptions, 16 yards. Mason had 11 backfield touches, 8 rushes, and 42 yards. So he was by far the better rusher, or not by far, but the more efficient rusher. And he has if he's in the game, it's a 75% chance that Mason is going to run if he's in there. So you would think that Mason and Jones are splitting the workload. It's not the case.
Oh.
Mason is in there for less than half, almost a third of the touches that Aaron Jones got.
He seems like he's out there a ton, though, because when he's in there, he gets the ball every time. It's like Tyler Algier, too, right? Like it feels like he's out there a lot, but he's really not.
Yeah, when he's in there, that's ridiculous. 75%, you're getting the touch. If you're out there, that's like an insane amount to really comprehend.
The defense has got to know it, too. Like these guys, they're not stupid. Coordinators are like, hey, by the way, when this guy's in, he gets the ball every time. So I don't know if that's effective strategy.
Well, I mean, they're getting 6-7 yard rushes out of him, but Jefferson Hawkinson, man, saved by PPR formats. If you didn't have him in that, it was a bad week. Blame it on the cold weather, blame it on an elite defense. Just a bad week for both of them. I am leery of starting both of those guys going forward. Basically, everybody on the Vikings. I don't know that you have a startable Viking outside of like Cashman. He's an IDP. Looking over at the Packers, quarterback 19 belonged to Jordan Love this week. So all these guys getting pushed into this 17, 18, 19 range by Jameis Winston and others is very interesting. But he wasn't needed. They pulled him to prepare for the Thanksgiving game, which Jordan Love is amazing in Thanksgiving game. So I'm happy we get another one. And they didn't give him a turkey leg. I was so pissed off. He's like the first Thanksgiving guy to never get a turkey leg. I don't know if they thought Detroit was going to win the game or what. I don't know if you remember that, but it's imprinted in my mind. I'm not.
So you're saying they're resting him up to make sure he has a turkey leg quality performance here.
Oh yeah, that's what's about to get the turkey legs ready.
There's a lot of legs on those turkeys too. You'd think the QB would get in and get one.
Yeah, GMO. That's it's amazing what they can do now.
Beautiful, yeah. Monsanto.
Emmanuel Wilson, another one we predicted last week. I told you, watch out. This is a running team, a running philosophy with Matt LaFleur. I said he's going to come in and get a lot of volume. He had 28, 107, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 18 yards. That was a better line than Josh Jacobs has put on all year. Is he better than Jacobs? I don't know. Emmanuel Wilson's definitely earned more touches. I think Jacobs, has been banged up all season. If they were smart, they're just going to sit him this Thanksgiving game, give him those 2 full weeks to rest, not worry about it, because we're going to need Jacobs in the playoffs. But Emmanuel Wilson could, he's more than a handcuff, I think, going forward. If you need another running back, I think he's going to continue to get touches. When you look at it, Watson definitely became wide receiver 1 this week. Him and Wicks both out targeted Romeo Doubs. Watson inserting that he's the guy. But guess what? Jaden Reed started in practice. So Reed's coming back. It's going to really muddle up this wide receiver room. You can't really trust the tight ends. Now that Tyler Kraft is gone, the proof's in the pudding. We're not going to get any kind of consistency. We're barely going to get a floor. So, Matt LaFleur has basically abandoned his tight end usage since Kraft is gone. But with that in mind, Love could be good going forward. It's going to be hard to pick the one to want to own. Maybe Watson is the for sure wide receiver you want to own out of this group, but once Reed comes back, that's going to change it again. So just keep an eye on that.
I'm in on Watson until that point. We'll see how it shakes it up, but I think Watson keeps his outside role, and I think he can be. The thing with him is he at least gets a deep shot every once in a while too, right? Like once a week, like Alec Pierce kind of. So I have Watson and Pierce in a very similar range because of the roles for those two guys. So I'm with you on that.
You're right.
Daniel Hayes wants to know full PPR down 40. I have CMC and 10. I mean, dude, as long as you have CMC, you could be down 50 and still have a chance. Like that's the CMC effect, bro. So it's possible. It's entirely possible when you have CMC. Need 27 from Dowdle and Tet. Probably no. I mean, I don't know, man. McMillan's had some big weeks. Dowdle's had some big weeks. Again, this is a good game for fantasy. There's some guys out there, man. And E. Bernhardt says we can't wait to smoke some GMO on Thanksgiving and watch some football with the family. Here you go, dude. I'll leave that up to you, Colorado folks. Next game here, let's look at the Colts and the Chiefs. I wasn't sure who to root for in this game, but at the end of the day, I'm glad the Colts lost. Patriots #1 seed. I don't want the Chiefs in the playoffs, but we could still find ways to keep them out. Michael Pittman was able to get it done despite a tough matchup. He's got another tough matchup this week where, once again, you're probably just hoping he scores. So we're once again going to be cautious this week with Pittman just because the Texans secondary is just crazy, right? I mean, we saw it against the Bills. Best secondary in the league, you think, Iggy, as a defensive expert?
No, I don't think so. I like the Texans.
I just said the Texans.
Oh, I thought you said the Chiefs. I'm sorry. Yeah,
the Texans because the Colts play the Texans next week.
Yeah. No, the AFC South's wide open, and Jacksonville, Houston are in it.
Yeah, the Texans secondary very scary. So Pittman, you're going to be really careful with him. And Alec Pierce showed the bust side of a boom bust player. It's like a lot of these guys that are field stretchers. They either catch the big play or they don't. And Pierce is one of those guys, just like Jameson Williams, just like Christian Watson, where you sit back and say, okay, do I have a guy who's consistent and safe and has upside? Well, I'll start that guy. If you don't, and your options are kind of boring guys that have low floors, then you might as well just throw in guys like Pierce or Watson because they do have upside. Just know that every once in a while they don't catch the 40-yard pass that gets thrown their way, and then it looks like this. Josh Downs only ran 14 routes. He needs some sort of shakeup, change of scenery, because right now his role is just too small with this team. And then Tyler Warren's must start. Jonathan Taylor's must start. And in most cases, you're starting Daniel Jones, too. I mean, the Colts are a good football team. Anything else on the Colts here?
Yeah, Jay, their run could be over. I think the AFC South is going to get shook up.
You think so? You think the Colts cold weather is going to shut this team down? You think their time is over?
Just being 100% honest, the emotion of the death of the owner, I think that carried him a long way as well with Bob Isray. And then, tape's out, man. Tape is out. That's just how it goes against quarterbacks.
All right. Well, we'll see on that. Colt, I mean, that's again, this week the Chiefs seemed to know what they were doing. They kind of had the game it felt like they didn't panic. The Chiefs are just one of those teams that they never panic. I mean, even while being down in this game, they continued to run the football and it was effective, right? They ran the ball Kareem Hunt had 30 carries in this game. So Kareem Hunt, as long as Pacheco's out, is like must-start player, in my opinion. We had him ranked pretty high this week. We told people to start him over Ashton Genty, which worked out pretty well there. So good for you if you got Hunt and you've been starting him. Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, also guys that we're pretty much just locking in. Kelce because, tight end is tight end, and Rashee Rice is awesome. Xavier Worthy is another guy where I put him right in there with like Alec Pierce and Christian Watson behind those guys, in my opinion, because he hasn't really done it. This guy, we keep saying, oh, yeah, he's got 4.29 40 time, but when is he going to break off the big play? He's never had a game besides the Super Bowl where it was all garbage time, never really had a game with more than 80 yards. I just don't trust Xavier Worthy. I don't know about you, Iggy. Where are you at with Worthy?
I don't know if it's Worthy as much as it is the Chiefs' offensive line not giving Mahomes enough time. He's constantly flushed outside the pocket. He's gotten more scramble yards this year, I believe. He's on pace to set his most rushing yards. So we'll see. I think it's more of an offensive line problem.
Yeah. Question here from Fred. 12-team half PPR. Do I stash Darren Waller over Bucks D? Current tight end is Pitts. D is Falcons. I mean, Bucks D has a really good schedule, but Waller, I mean, I just added him. Yeah, I have one of those Yahoo leagues where you can drop guys who already played and pick up guys who haven't. And I just picked up Waller and dropped Kyle Williams. Like, I think defense is easier to replace than tight end. Right. And the schedule for Waller is actually really good. Like, if he can come back out of the bye, look at some of these. He has arguably the best schedule of any tight end that's not 100% owned. Right. Like, McBride's got a good schedule. Warren has a good schedule. But, like, he gets the Saints and the Jets. Right. And during fantasy playoffs, he gets the Bengals. And the Steelers are actually an okay matchup for tight ends, too. Like, his schedule, next 4 games, if he can come back for those games, Waller could make a big, big difference. And we're going through every single game, Ethan, so we're going to get to that one for sure. I'll let you know my thoughts on those guys. In fact, why don't we just talk about the Seahawks and Titans right now, Iggy? What do you think?
Seahawks and Titans up on deck. You want it, you get it, my friend. I'll even talk about the Titans first. Cam Ward, QB7. People like me that have suffered all season holding on to him. Rejoice. Rejoice. When you got to pass 42 times, usually good things will come out of that fantasy football stat-wise, including 28 completions, 256 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 6 runs for 37 yards and a touchdown, though. That's really the difference. You're talking about a 9.7 advantage added to his pass yards. I don't know why he hasn't done that all game. I know he's not a great scrambler, but he should be. He's young enough to be scrambling around, running backs, just don't do it. Look at me right now. Just don't do it. All right. Do not put them in this double-digit weeks. Pollard, Spears, Chestnut, guess how they did? They combined for 16 rushes for 27 yards.
Gross, bro.
Dude, you can't, that is so terrible. I can't drop Pollard in some of these Kings and some of these 16-team leagues I'm a part of. I can't drop them because there's not
theory. There's nobody out there, yeah.
Better, but it's not doing anything. And then wide receivers, we talked about it. DK 7 touches, or 7 targets, 5 receptions, 44 yards, 1 touchdown. And you talked about Gunnar Helm, Chig over there as well. He had, what was that, 4 for 30. Helm had 7 targets, 6 receptions, 51 yards. So Seattle is actually a better defense than I think people give credit for, but this was Tennessee's best game they've had this season. So I don't know what to take from that. When I look at Seattle, though, there's a lot more questions over there, I think, from a fantasy perspective, or not as many questions from a fantasy perspective, more questions from a reality perspective. Darnold.
Let me just say real quick on the Titans. And again, Julian Love, when he's back, they'll be better against the tight end then, the Seahawks. Right now, that's been a problem for them. In terms of Gunnar Helm, I don't think he's going to be a thing in redraft that we can trust because he's still not running more routes than Chig. Where Chig ran 38, I think he only ran 20 something. I'll actually just pull it up real quick just to make sure we're giving you the right numbers. I was just looking at it before.
I kind of look at it too
because Joey Cardolano, my buddy, texted me the same thing this morning. He used to work for Pro Football Focus. He was like, "Is Chig a thing?" And he said it's Gunnar Helm a thing. 36 routes for Chig, only 22 for Gunnar Helm. So for us to use him in redraft, we need that to flip because we really there's enough tight ends out there that run the full number of routes. Again, this team dropped back to pass 51 times. That's going to skew the numbers a little bit, right? That's obviously uh, more than the average number of plays and pass plays. So right now, because they split, I don't trust either of them. In Dynasty, though, Gunnar Helm definitely needs to be rostered because anytime a rookie can push, to split some of the work and get, especially because he's a better blocker than Chig, that's a good news for the future because Chig is coming up on the end of his deal and could be out of here. So definitely keep that in Dynasty, but in redraft, I'm not going to go there. Shadur Sanders officially announced a starter. Interesting.
Yeah, well, I would hope so, but we'll talk about him here in a second. And you're going to see these rookies, like I told you, Ward had a good game. Helm starting to have a good game. You're going to see these young players starting to thrive. Now that we're getting to these not thrive, but do better since we're getting to these double-digit weeks. When I look at Sam Darnold, is he the best USC quarterback of all time to come from that college to the NFL? That's a serious question. Y'all could think about that in the messages and give us your answer. Right. I mean, because you're pretty much hanging your hat on Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
With one playoff victory. So that's what you're hanging your hat on. As
Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, he who shall not be named.
Palmer statistically, actually, like if you go look at his bulk stats, like his total career stats, it's actually a lot higher than you would think. Because he played
he has good stats.
Like his career stat, because people forget he played for the Cardinals for like a while. After he left the Bengals, he played like a couple of years for the Cardinals. So his bulk stats are good, but I think that the peak of Darnold right now is probably as good, if not better, than the peak we saw with Palmer, right?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, like I said, there's not a whole lot to think. Caleb Williams is making a case right now, but I think Sam Darnold just declared too early, and I think my whole point with this is maturity. And he might throw to the wide receiver who's going to have the first 2,000-yard season. So that's going to be such a notch. But, Darnold, 16, 244, 2 touchdowns. He made it look easy. Out there against Tennessee. Even though this game was close, it never really felt close.
No.
But we're starting to maybe get some clarity. I think the head coach over there was like telling the truth. It wasn't coach speak when he said Kenneth Walker's earned some more touches,
for once.
30 offensive snaps, 11 on the ground for 71, and then 3 receptions actually for 30 yards. Pretty decent line. I had Walker in. I was happy with what he had without a touchdown. Charbonnet only had 15 offensive snaps, not much production from it. And then JSN, man, I mean, look, let's compare JSN to the rest of the team. 10 targets, 8 receptions, 167 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. The rest of the wide receivers and tight ends combined, 11 targets, 5 receptions, 47 yards. Very one-dimensional. I think you don't want anybody but Darnold, Kenneth Walker, and JSN started on a weekly advantage. Barner did okay, like we talked about. Arroyo still dipping into the snap counts like we discussed. So I don't know if Barner's going to break out quite like we were expecting him to. We talked about last week. But like I said, this game never – like it felt like it was over before it started, but it was the score just doesn't reflect that.
Doesn't. Yeah, I watched it again this morning, and I'll tell you, with Barner, we did see a little bit of regression. Last week, 82% route participation. This week, back down to 61. So not the positive movement we wanted to see. I always root for just like somebody to run away with the work. He didn't quite do it. So next game here, Jags, Cardinals. I'm going to fly through this one because we're coming up on time here. ETN. So people were worried that Bayshall Tootin was going to take over work. Didn't. ETN got 40 snaps, only 13 for Tootin, 9 for LaQuint Allen. Now, both ETN and Tootin were banged up. ETN with the shoulder, Tootin with the ankle. Maybe that was based on the ankle, but for the time being, we have to go by what we know and what we saw, and that was that ETN got the vast majority of the work and looked good. So ETN is in. Tootin is still just a stash. With no BTJ, Myers and Washington operated as the 2 wide receivers. As long as BTJ is out, you can use both guys. When BTJ comes back, I do think it's going to be BTJ and Myers as the main guys and Washington as the odd man out. Brenton Strange is on the streaming radar. Basically, he's what Kate Otten was last year for Liam Cohen. He plays a bunch of snaps. When wide receivers are hurt or he's a really good matchup, you can stream him. Otherwise, I'm not really super interested. But, there's not a lot out there, tight end, so maybe add him. On the Cardinals side, Michael Wilson looked awesome again. Whenever Marvin Harrison Jr. is out, he is a lock. When Marvin Harrison Jr. gets back, we'll have to see what happens, but he probably has earned more looks. Trey McBride's obviously must start. Xavier Weaver was the wide receiver 2, opposite Michael Wilson, but they looked more towards the slot with Greg Dortch. So even though Weaver plays more snaps, Dortch is like your dart throw there. Until Trey Benson comes back, it's Bam Knight, Zonovan Bam Knight on the rundowns, and it's Michael Carter on the pass downs. So this week in a negative game script, you did see Carter play more snaps. If you think the Cardinals are going to win or be in the lead, then you want Bam Knight. If you think that they are going to get crushed or play from behind, then you want Michael Carter. Full PPR maybe helps Michael Carter too. When Trey Benson gets back, I hope and expect him to take over, but who knows? Michael Carter could retain some pass work like Amari DiMercato had been doing previously. So that's where I live on this team. What do you think? Anything else for that game?
No, looks good. You know, I do believe in Jacksonville.
You believe in who?
Jacksonville.
Yeah, you like him. Okay. I mean, like the thing about Trevor Lawrence is that I still think that he's a good player and a good quarterback. And I think that he can develop into a winner. I think that the organization had been a mess for a long time, and they're kind of trending in the right direction now with Liam Cohen. And I think that this guy, for me, potentially a dynasty buy. I mean, you look around, a lot of these guys, look at Justin Herbert, didn't really come into his own until later. I mean, Tom Brady never became like the statistical monster he was until he didn't throw 30 touchdown passes until he was 29 years old. You know what I mean? Like, you just like I'll throw a crazy example out. Steve Young didn't even play until he was like 29 years old. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give these guys a chance. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, these guys, man, you can develop. It's a very difficult position. So Trevor Lawrence, I'm not giving up. I think for me, he's a buy. So, but onwards and upwards, or I guess downwards to the Cleveland Brown and Las Vegas Raiders, man. What'd you see?
Rookies, man. Sanders, Judkins, Sampson, Fannin, Bond. All had pretty much stuck out games. So hold on to those guys. Go get those guys if you're in a rebuild. Sanders was actually QB 16. So he's a QB 1. And like every league I set up, 11 for 20, 209, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, just enough. Judkins had 16 for 47, 2 touchdowns. Clearly the like lead running back, 25 snaps. Sampson had 19 offensive snaps, 7 for 23, but had 2 catches for 59 yards. And he had that big long cast for the touchdown and for the long play. And that led the team in receiving yards. Fanning led the team in targets, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 40 yards. Bond had 15 snaps, a little bit of an increase. You know, they're trying to get him more involved. I imagine he has a better rapport with Sanders. So in a deep league, maybe go take a look at Bond. I think he's worth an ad. He had 2 for 58. Myles Garrett, man, so special. Defensive lineman number 1, 3 sacks. He's 4.5 behind the record. 5 games left. You think he does it?
I hope he does, man. I hope he does. And we had a comment in the chat here. That is not working right now. From Defensive Player of the Year is Myles Garrett. I think that's at this stage like pretty much a lock, dude.
Yeah, I mean, from him, it's definitely right.
I hope Myles Garrett does, and if he doesn't do it, I'll just remember that game. I think it was actually against the Patriots where he had so many sacks, and then they were losing. They took him out of the game, and he was so pissed he like smashed his helmet because like what if he doesn't get the sack record? You took him out of a game, like that moment sticks in my head. So yeah. Fannin on the same page with Shadur Sanders here. So kind of good. He actually led the team, he led the team in routes run, right?
Routes run and targets, 6 targets.
So yeah, like Fannin definitely on the menu with Shadur Sanders. Good news if you've been holding him. What about the Raiders side? Is there any good news over there?
Geno sacked 10 times, man. Chip Kelly's fired. That might be good news to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Geno had 30 completions for 285 and a touchdown. So not terrible stat line. If you get points for sacks, though, if you get points taken away for sacks, every 3 completions, he had 1 sack. It's terrible. So Genty, 64 snaps. He pulled a CMC, 25 touches on the ground, 17 for 50, 8 receptions, led team with 58 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. Tucker led the team with 10 targets, had a terrible output. I wouldn't panic. Geno Smith was just constantly under pressure. I think he's still probably going to start Tucker going forward. Bowers, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 55 yards. Great stat line for a tight end still. And then Tyler Lockett, I think we're to the point we got to start inserting him into lineups. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 62 yards. That led the team.
Yeah, your lineups, your 16-team league lineups. But the average person, maybe not. I mean, he did play good enough snap share. He's playing over the rookies. I think at some point this team's got to let the rookies play. I think if you want to develop guys like Jack Besh and Dante Thornton, Tyler Lockett being there is a good thing, but Tyler Lockett playing all the snaps, maybe not that good of a thing. I think
Well,
at some point,
if you're going to roll out Geno, in my point, there's no point rolling out the wide receivers because there's not going to be any carryover in the rhythm.
true.
So I mean, 10.2 points in PPR formats, that's more than Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, definitely Lockett and Tucker. Like Tucker himself is only last I checked on Yahoo rostered in like 57% of leagues. So like he could be out there too. These guys are the targets are there.
Negative game scripts are going to continue for the Raiders.
Yeah, Galaxy Pickers wants to know trade Lamb, London, and Judkins for CMC and Smith. He's got JT, Judkins, Marks, Harvey, and Tootin, Lamb, London, Adunze, and Diggs. I don't know if I want to do all that. You're getting CMC.
And which Smith? I'm assuming Devontae?
I would, yeah, it's Devontae. It's got to be Devontae. Yeah, there's no other trade possible that would make sense without it being Devontae. Now, I would maybe consider that if you're fighting for a playoff spot and you might miss the playoffs, I actually would do that just because I don't know if London's going to help you in that regard. But if you have the playoffs locked up, I might just hold on to what you have. Does that make sense to you, Iggy?
Yeah, it's just, man, I hate to trade away everything I've gotten this far with at this point.
But like if you're just fighting to make the playoffs, just having well, actually, you know what? CMC has a bye week coming up too, doesn't he?
No, I think the 49ers are past, aren't they?
No, they're not. It's week 14.
14, they're in that mega bye week.
Oh man, I'm in big trouble for Scott Fishbowl with CMC on bye 14. That's my guy, dude. I could be in trouble there. But yeah, I mean, in that case, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it because you're said you're gonna lose games from at least one game from CMC. I would just hold on with what you have.
You already have Diggs on your roster, so that's another. You'd have to be absorbing some major bye weeks.
Yeah, Diggs got a bye week as well. Yeah. So I would stick with what you got. All right. Next game here. I am up with the Eagles and the Cowboys. And man, I'll tell you again, I watched a couple games this morning. I watched this one again. I can confidently say, with the flow of this game, and after watching it again, the Eagles took their foot off the gas and they screwed up, dude. I think that they thought they had this game. This game was they thought it was done, right? When I think it was 21-7, they thought we got this one. This one's done. And they let the Cowboys fight back, and they did. And my goodness, I will say this was the Diva wide receiver bowl.
Right? Yeah.
Like the Diva wide receiver bowl, everybody got 10 targets. Or like AJ Brown and Smith got 10, Lamb got 11, Pickens got 9. But big time Diva wide receiver bowl. We were talking about that in DFS. So hopefully you stack those guys up like we were mentioning. But AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Lamb, Pickens, you're just starting all those guys, man. Jahan Dotson's a distant wide receiver 3. Turpin and Flournoy rotated. So for me, you have to be in a league with return points to start somebody like Turpin, which I usually – I know in your leagues, Iggy, that you got a lot of that. But for me, nah, I can't trust a guy like that. Dallas Goedert also ran 40 routes, but just wasn't involved. And we warn you guys that like he doesn't catch passes versus man-to-man. He doesn't have a ton of end zone targets. That's just not his bag.
Was Logan Wilson matched up on him a lot, or?
Yeah, I mean, like that's essentially how it shook out. Is that because they don't really use the wide receiver 3, it's just so easy to identify who's going to be the guy over the middle, right? They don't really use a typical slot guy. So yeah, Dallas Goedert he's just not involved enough unless a wide receiver gets hurt, and then he's must start. Saquon Barkley's a star. Unfortunate fumble there at the end of the game that definitely was costly. And then Javonte, big snap share. Malik Davis is the backup. Will be interesting to see what they do with Malik Davis. Sometimes, and this is crazy, but sometimes teams will call up a guy. So you get 3 call-ups, right? You send him to the practice squad, you call him up. You send him down, you call him up. You only get 3 of those though. And sometimes when they run out, they actually decide not to put the guy on the roster. I believe your Packers did that once with Patrick Taylor, where they called him up every week. And then when the call-outs ran out, I was like, oh yeah, now they'll sign him to the roster. And they just decided not to sign him at all. That's actually possible for Malik Davis. They have to decide soon whether to permanently sign him to the roster or not. And sometimes they don't. So just keep that in mind with this type of roster manipulation from a team. I've seen it before. I think they do sign him, and I think he remains the handcuff. But keep an eye on that, because if they decide to do that, it's just going to be whoever the next guy is. Ferguson got a 78% route participation, which isn't too bad. 6 targets, and it's a tough matchup. The Eagles are a tough matchup, so Ferg is still going to be on the menu in most cases here. Anything else on this game that I missed, Iggy?
Yeah, the Cowboys defense has just improved so much within the season. They've added the pieces. You know, they got a
They're
good
trying.
defensive coordinator over there. Don't sleep on them.
This could also be true, Ethan. Definitely a lot of turmoil going on over there. The vibes are bad. For a team that just won the Super Bowl, vibes are at an all-time low.
They wanted to fire Sirianni before he won his other Super Bowl. Like, it's just one of those franchises right now where if it's not excellent, it's there's no other standard. That's it.
There's a real possibility, though. We have to acknowledge there's a real possibility that Howie Roseman is like the best GM ever.
Oh yeah.
And Sirianni is just like an okay coach. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? In which case, if you were to switch like Andy Reid in there, they would win every single year. You know what I mean? Or like you were to bring in Sean McVay maybe or somebody. You know, I know that's not possible because those guys aren't changing teams. But like, what if they fire? What if they fire Nick Sirianni and they bring in Clint Kubiak from the Seahawks? Now you're talking. Now you're talking my language. Because I mean, they already don't use a wide receiver 3. So they have the pieces, and then you just bring in a fullback. It's literally all they need is a fullback, right? And then they can run Kubiak's offense.
Yeah.
He'd be a perfect coach for that team.
It might be Big Fangio, Clint Kubiak. That might work out all right.
Jot
but
that down.
We'll see. I'm going to speed power through right here. The Falcons and the Saints. Kirk was decent. Like I said, we're getting to the time when quarterbacks drop in production, running backs increase in production. That's how football goes. That's just the way it is. All right, we're at that time of the year. He had 16 for 199, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Bijan, 37 snaps, 14 carries, 70 yards. He had 2 receptions for 37. So just not the output we're looking for there. But of course, you're starting him. Algier, 22 snaps, 12 rushes, 44 rushing yards, 1 reception, 5 yards. Like you said, 13 touches on 22 snaps. That's pretty high. I'm starting both of them this week. Wide receiver, no London, no problem, baby. Pitts led the team in targets with 5. He did not get much production out of them.
Killing me, that guy, bro. Killing me. Leading the team in routes run every week and just doing nothing, bro.
Yeah, even Kirk Cousins didn't change that. Charlie Woner, man, how about that name? 3 for 24. Don't take it too serious. Mooney, talk about making the most out of a little bit. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 74 yards. Led the team in yardage, 1 touchdown. Going over to the Saints, Tyler Shuck, 30 for 43, 243, and an interception. Just terrible, terrible, terrible. Guess what, though? He was the team's leading rusher for the Saints. 7 rushes, 22 yards. That is pretty sad when you think about it. Kamara, he's just done for. He's hurt. So that's going to insert Neal in your lineup. If you're in one of these 10 or 12 team leagues, go take a look. Neal could be available. He could be serviceable, especially during that week 14 bye week. He had 7 for 18, pretty terrible, but 5 receptions for 43 yards. Olave, amazing. He's great with Shuck. 13 targets, 9 receptions, 70 yards. Juwan Johnson, I knew he was going to have a good week. I talked about it last week. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 46 yards. Vele, 7 targets, 3 receptions, 37 yards. Demario Davis is an IDP legend. That's all I got on those guys.
Is Demario Davis a Hall of Famer?
Man, I don't know. It's so hard for linebackers to get in. The fact that he played with the Jets might help him, just being in New York, getting that name recognition. Right. But he's an all-timer. Like Zach Thomas made it. So Demario Davis may have to wait.
Maybe like another, because I don't think the way he's playing, I don't think he's going to retire. You know what I mean? If he just keeps playing a little longer, man.
Him and Cameron Jordan, 1 more year.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And Juwan Johnson, I mean, I will say the Falcons are, especially with Divine Diablo back, usually there's a tough matchup for tight ends with the safeties they have, Jesse Bates. I mean, the fact that he came out and did what he did, like, he's locked in, man. He's locked in. He basically had 3 weeks where he hurt his ankle against the Bills and had 3 down games. In every other game, besides that stretch of 3 games, in every other game, he's had 10 PPR points.
Yeah, I mean, they're not using Taysom Hill how they're using Juwan Johnson. And then Juwan Johnson did so good in my league's half-point PPR, no tight end premium. He still outproduced most people. So
yeah, Taysom time, just in time, buddy. No Taysom time. And the last note on that game, I thought Kadarrell Hodge would get the snaps with London out. He didn't. It was David Sills. So shout out Dave Kluge. Me and Kluge went back and forth on that, and he was right. Sills is the guy. Hodge didn't. He played like 5 snaps, so like forget about him. Last one here. Rashee Rice rest season for me, brother, for sure. Last game here. And again, because Baker Mayfield got hurt with the shoulder and he's going to have the MRI today, everything could be messed up here.
No, it's done.
Yeah, but I will cover it anyway. Egbuka, full-time guy. Chris Godwin came back, but he was not in a full-time role. He basically just took the slot work that Sterling Shepard was getting. Tez Johnson still played a lot on the outside, though Godwin did take a couple two wide receiver sets. I expect Godwin to slowly get ramped up and Tez to slowly come down. And then we'll see what happens if and when Mike Evans gets back. But Godwin, not necessarily a guy that you're starting because he's getting ramped up, but I think he will get to that point. Sean Tucker gets the run work. White gets the pass work. Rachaad White, because of the super negative game script, Rachaad White got 42 snaps. Tucker only got 26. So keep that in mind until Bucky Irving gets back, if and when. I don't know what's going on with him. And then Cade Otton you can only start him based on matchups. And if Baker Mayfield's out, the only guy we're starting is Egbuka, right? So we'll keep an eye on that. Rams are simple. You start Puka Nacua every week. You start Devontae Adams every week. You start Kyron Williams every week. You stay away from the tight ends. Of 36 routes, Colby Parkinson ran 19. Davis Allen ran 15. Terrence Ferguson ran 8. I guess if you need a spot start, it's Colby Parkinson just because he ran the most routes and got a couple targets, but I'm not going there. It's Nacua, Adams, Kyron, Matthew Stafford. If he just keeps doing what he's doing and they get the 1 or 2 seed, then he'll probably be the MVP of the league. And, if the Seahawks can surpass the Rams and JSN has 2,000 yards, then he should get votes. But based on everything we know about the way these guys vote, Stafford's got to be the front runner, right?
It's just such a muddled thing, but yeah, I guess Stafford's the guy. I mean,
the way they vote every time, it's wins,
and
stats, and who takes care of the ball. The guy hasn't turned the ball over in a month, interceptions or fumbles. He hasn't turned the ball over since the Ravens game. He had a fumble in that game. Like, how crazy. He hasn't thrown an interception in 2 months.
Yeah, he's good, dude. Sean McVay's great. He's great. Monte Adams is great. It's just a great combo.
Yeah, so that's it for us, folks. Thank you for hanging with us. We went a couple minutes over, but we're going to be okay. This has been the Usage Show. Tomorrow we got the Waivers Show. On Wednesday, change of schedule, everybody. Because of Thanksgiving, we're going to do the Start Sit Show on Wednesday. I know you guys already asked Start Sit questions on Wednesday when we tell you not to anyway. So go ahead and ask them all on Wednesday. So if you still have trade, like if you can still trade in your league, ask those questions. If you have DFS, ask those questions. Wednesday is just going to be one super show where we cover everything. All right. I don't know if John and Howard are going to do a Thanksgiving show like they did last year. That'll be a bonus if that happens. On Friday, I will have my show 1 o'clock. Bob Harris will be on. The SiriusXM show, no SiriusXM show on Thursday. Iggy, you and John aren't doing a show Thursday, right? Either.
He hasn't told me, but I imagine not. Yeah, no. I mean,
middle of the day.
If he's not, I'm not going to work it. So
no. And then the SiriusXM show on Friday is moved ahead 5 to 7, instead of 6 to 8. So just everybody knows what's going on with the schedule this week. But that's about it, Iggy, unless you got anything else for the people.
Go Panthers. That's all I got.
Go Panthers. And go Panthers. And I hope somehow we thread the needle for everybody in the chat where like the Rico Dowdle team, the guy playing against Rico Dowdle, he doesn't get enough, but Tet McMillan gets enough for our guy Rob Stone to win. And then the CMC guy gets his 40. Yeah, Daniel Hayes. I just hope everybody
season.
Yeah, we can thread that needle. It's possible. It's not mutually exclusive. So good luck with you guys. And until tomorrow.
Adios, turd nuggets.